Hi, I'm DJ Ware. On this episode of the CyberGizmo, I'm going to be taking a look at Feren OS right after this. So I've gotten a number of requests from some of my viewers that would like me to review Feren OS. And so I thought I would do that today, and the version I'm going to be looking at is the one released on July the 29th of 2020. And as I understand it, that is the birthday release, the 5-year birthday release for Feren OS. So we'll take a look at that snapshot, and we'll also do an install and a review. But before we do that, what I want to do today is to kind of talk a little bit about the distribution itself. So Feren OS is a British-made Linux distribution. It is open source, and they've existed for, as I've said, 5 years. It's based on Ubuntu 18.04 LTS, and the KDE is the default desktop environment, and that is version 5.19.4. The framework is 5.72 for KDE, and the Qt version is 5.13.2 for those of you that care about such things. But it is based on a rock-solid foundation, and as the site says, it's designed for security and privacy. But the goal of Feren OS is to provide an easy-to-use desktop that is designed for familiarity. Whether you're coming from Windows or macOS or another Linux distribution, you'll find something familiar in the way you can install and configure Feren OS to match the way you want to work. It is based on a 5.4.42 Linux kernel, and that's after the update. I did not check it before. The main Feren OS requires a 64-bit CPU. However, we'll talk about Feren Classic here in a bit. The C compiler is the GNU GCC 7.5, and that is the default. However, I did notice that the GNU GCC 5.4 is also installed, so I would imagine if you want to use the newer compiler, you can. You just have to pass that to it. Security, AppArmor is installed by default, and that is version 2.12. And then the Universal Firewall is 0.36. That is installed along with the GUI front end to help you configure it and set it up, which is good. It's good that you have those security tools there. Other security features are Bubble Wrap is installed by default. Office and Groupware, the LibreOffice full suite is installed, and that's 6.4.2. Although I think they just came out with 7 recently, so I don't know when that's going to start showing up, but it hasn't shown up on my base distro either yet. The browsers are Vivaldi, but you do have a number of options that you can install if you wish. Backup, TimeShift is installed by default, as well as Arc. I just singled out TimeShift because I think that's excellent. It is an excellent backup method. Cell phone integration is KDE Connect, and that is for Android phones only. Package Manager, there is a custom written package manager for updates. That is the graphical front end, as well as, of course, through the command line, the APT is available to you as well. There is also a store that allows you to pick and choose from. It's sort of familiar if you've been around Linux distros of any length of time. It's sort of familiar. You can go in and find the category of the application and then browse through the ones that you're interested in installing. Some applications that I kind of pulled out for highlight, which I found to be unique, is Spectacle is being used for screenshot, and Nemo is your default file browser. There's also a transfer tool, which is kind of unique. I have not seen that in any other Linux distro, and at least of recent memory. Now, I do remember way back when there was some transfer tools available, but those have fallen by the wayside and are probably woefully out of date, of course. But you have 2 options. One, you can back up your current settings and configuration, and then use that to restore it in the event you need to reinstall Feren OS or update to a new version, and you take the nuke and pave route to remove the old release completely and install over top of it. There's also a way that it says it supports transferring data files from Windows. Although I did not see that documented in the documentation set that was out there. But there are a lot more applications that are installed with this. And then as far as utility functions are concerned, you can customize just about everything here. And it's really set up quite well. You have a global theme. You have the ability to retrieve new themes if you wish. You can add widgets to the screen. You have theme colorizers, so if you don't like the default color, you can change it to whatever you want. You can even customize your lock screen and your login screen if you wish, if you don't like the defaults that are there as well. Some of the requirements, I mentioned it was a 64-bit. However, there is an exception for Feren OS Classic. That offers both 64-bit and 32-bit options, although be aware that Feren OS Classic is based on Cinnamon because it's the baseline for that release. It comes from Linux Mint, whereas the main Feren OS is based on Ubuntu 18.04 LTS. So, yeah, and there's some, you might want to go read the documentation that's online about Feren OS Classic. There's some information about a beta in 2004 that's available, and there's some information about how to update an existing Feren OS Classic if you wish to read through that. The minimum requirements, well, actually, the requirements, not minimum, but the requirements are 1 to 2 gig of RAM, 20 plus gig of disk space, 1024 by 768 screen resolution, which seems to be becoming the default these days. USB DVD for installation for your live session and also for your install. Also, if you are using the live CD as your session, you will need to have an internet connection as well for that. The default file system is ext4. Now, the EFI is built on top of a VFAT, and it does use grub2 and not system deboot. So that's fine. I mean, that works, and it seems to work just fine. It has and again, this is always the hallmark of a well-written and well-developed OS distro, a well-thought-out one. It has a very comprehensive user guide that goes through steps on installing Feren OS, whether you're coming from another Linux distribution or Windows or macOS, and it goes through step-by-step what you need to do. There's also instructions in there about installing applications, and if you want to use Feren OS for gaming, there's information in there on how to get set up and get started. You can customize, as I mentioned, everything in the look and feel, and there's descriptions in the documentation that you can follow as to what you want. If you're just wanting to understand what you can do and how you do it, then you can start with that. There's also information if you want to send feedback, and then if you're having trouble, there's and I would have this is my preference. If I'm having a problem, I'll go to the troubleshooting page first, look through the list and see if there's something that's already there that covers a situation similar to one I'm experiencing. The next step I would take, and there is also information in there about the forum, you would go and look in the forum and see if other users are having a similar problem, and if they are, then look and see if anyone has resolved it. And then I would read the manual and make sure that I didn't miss something during the install. Most of the time, in my experience, usually it's because maybe your hardware is just incompatible, but if you're doing something wrong, it's because you probably skipped a step. And I would just cover that base first before you report a problem, because you really want to be at the point where you've got nowhere else to turn and you need help. So, yeah, that's just my practice. How you handle it, that's completely up to you, of course. So, let me switch over here to full screen mode. And I will get this out of the way because we don't need that. And I'll close down some of this stuff. So I have already burned a CD here. Actually, I burned the ISO and put it onto my system. Now it's saying I am going to put this on a virtual machine. I did I did install this initially tonight on hardware, but my audio corrupted in the middle of it, so I'm going to try to get the load off of this machine and just use the Proxmox system in order to do this. And I am using Spice in order to bring the video back from the VM. So I run KVM, which is the base for Proxmox, so none of those two things apply to me. So I assume I will probably have some issues here, probably with the screen driver, I'm guessing, unless Feren has had the foresight to write this for KVM, which I doubt. So let's go ahead through and install, get it onto the hard drive. This is Calamares, and I always like to know what version I'm running, so we're at 3.2. I'm going to kind of drag this open a bit more so that you can follow along. I don't think I'm going to be able to change my screen resolution. I'm just guessing that I won't. And let's see, time zone. I'm going to take Chicago. Yep. We'll erase the disk. I wonder, I don't see any options here about swap. So I guess we'll find out what that does. Let's see, MS-DOS for the boot. ext4, yep, we know that that's the default. So, I mean, obviously you could go in and customize this any way you want. But for today, I'm just going to take the simple route and install it default. Once I get this installed, I'll attempt to change the screen resolution and see if the screen drivers are compatible with what Feren OS is expecting. Usually, unless they're written with KVM in mind, they generally don't work. So, at least that's been my experience. I will be back. This will probably take 4 to 5 minutes. Okay, so we're all done and we're ready for a restart. It looks like it took about 5 minutes or so. So we'll go ahead and restart this. It'll take for a few seconds for it to come down, and then I believe it should pause and allow me to eject the ISO. Okay, so I will go do that. I'll just go over here. We'll leave the drive, but we'll eject the actual config, and then I'll get rid of this since I don't need that anymore. Okay. So we have a setup screen, and I'll go ahead and stretch this out a bit. The keyboard, yep, that's fine. And we'll require the login instead of just bypassing that part of the security feature. Setting up the locales. And then assigning my password. So it shouldn't take very long. All right, so we're done. We'll log in. And then KDE always has this setup that it does, but it shouldn't take very long. So I did get the connection. Yep. I will do my codecs individually. I've had problems with that in the past. You know my feelings about Flash. So, all right, I'm going to leave this as default for now, and then we'll change that. And I can I can pair my machine with that. That's nice, with my cell phone if I choose to. Reduce eye strain, nice. Okay, so I guess the first thing we should do here is see if, we're getting started. So there's the user guide right there, and then you have some information about customization and the shortcuts and updates and all that stuff. So I'll probably come back to that later. It's right there. But right now I need to get into settings for the system. It's probably right there, huh? Let's see. And I need display, which is probably down here. Yep. Well, let's see if it'll do it. Like I said, it's not written for KVM. It's snapped back. So yeah, it doesn't like it. It started to do it, and then it snapped back on me. So we'll just leave it at here for now, I guess. That is common. I can tell you that is common with KVM-based systems. So we'll just run it this way for now. This is fine. It'll work. And so I guess the first thing we should do is let's go look at the global themes. So it looks like I have Breeze and Breeze Dark, Feren OS, and then I've got all kinds of color choices, light and dark. Yep. And then you can get new ones. Let's see what I can get. Oh, there is tons. Can make it look like a Mac. Wow, there's a lot of different choices to make it look like a Mac. And Windows 10. A couple of different options there. So yeah, you could make a hobby out of that. There's a lot of choices there. I think I'm going to go for that. And the other thing I think I'm going to do is, this is bright. So just give it a minute to load it. Let's see what choices we have here. Lots and lots. Let's see, I saw one that was up here. That's a nice minimalist one right there. I think I'll go with that. That's the backbone of the Milky Way. Looking toward it at about Sagittarius, in case you're wanting to know, that is the Nephiad, I believe that's what it's called. Nephiad. So let's see what we got here. So we have Vivaldi. This is in all applications, and of course you can go through them. But I think what I'd rather do is go through them by their type. So we have education. We have that's the math that comes with LibreOffice, and then we have Krita. This is LibreOffice Draw, Ocular, Photo, Simple Scan. Internet choices, Geary. There's the KDE Connect, Ramina, and Vivaldi. And then this one. So here's where, that's nice. So I can choose from a number of browsers here that I might want to use. And you can install them right there. Very nice. Very nice. I'm not going to do any installing because right now I'm just going to go through this, and then I'll do an update on the system and reboot, and then we'll check and see how much memory and stuff it's drawn. So we have this your webcam. That's for multimedia files to either stream or playback media. And then we have both video and audio, by the way. And then we have the LibreOffice suite. And then Ocular again. Settings, disk. Let's see what that is. Welcome to the maintenance check tool. Look for certain. Okay. Let's see if it finds something. Okay. So it's interesting. Always like to just play around with stuff at random until it breaks. You can always reinstall it. This is the GUFW for that's your front end for the UFW firewall. iBus preferences? No. Let's see. Well, I guess we won't mess with that. Input method, Cavantium Manager. Languages, this is your login window where you can modify. Let's see what we got on it. So I can change my background on the login screen and the color. I can turn on a grid. I can choose the GTK theme, and yeah, same ones that were there before. That's nice. I'll just leave it at default. Icon theme, Inspire. I think there's a few there. Yep. And other monitors in bottom left. Allow manual login, hide the user list. So I can force it to enter the username, which that's, if I had this in a public place, that's what I would do. And then we have some panel indicators, host name, accessibility options, and so forth. I can turn in high DPI support, and the monitor is auto. Very nice. Very nice. I like that. Let's see. Let's up at the all again. Let's go back down here. We did that. Software sources. I guess this is going to allow me to pick and choose what additional repositories or add PPAs. Yep. Google Stable, authentication keys, which this will be destroyed, so don't bother to copy them. Let's see. What's on settings? We have the store. Let's go look at that. So as I said, you have these. Should be familiar to you if you've used most distributions today, and it even has this called out separately, Flatpak all by itself. Yep. So if you want to install packages as Flatpaks, you can do that. I am assuming, let's see, probably shouldn't assume. That's probably always a dangerous thing to do. Let's see, let's try graphics, one of the graphics ones. That one's installed. Let's see, this should be a package, right? Yep, that's a PPA. But if I wanted to install GIMP, I could do that. Very nice. Just looking to see what's available. Okay. Looks very functional to me. And then we have the Synaptic Package Manager that no one uses anymore, but I suppose somebody still likes it. We have more system settings. which is where I was earlier. Is this, I think it's the same one. No, it's a little bit different. The display is slightly different. But I have my themes, which are the same in the as the global theme. Plasma style, so I can choose, yeah, if I want the oxygen look, I can do that. And then choose Windows decorations to, let's see if they have, yeah, you can always download ones that you want. Yeah, you could make this a hobby and just every day come in and customize something and make it look different. Very good. Theme color, update manager. Let's try that. I haven't done this yet, so I'm sure it'll find some. Yes, please. Let me find one that's near me. FTP, no. That'll work. Okay. I'm sure it will. I'll be back. This will be a while, I'm sure. Okay, so that's all done. It's telling me I have a reboot that's required, so let me go and take care of that. No, that's what I want. Yeah, it's restarted much faster this time. Let's see if the updates might have fixed maybe some of the problems. We'll see if we can get the display. It says it's been updated. Okay. So let me go back into settings here. Go to system settings again, and we'll scroll down. Let's see if we can get this to work. Nope, snap back again. You can always go out and I wonder if Wayland is running, if that might be it. But I guess I'll troubleshoot this on my own. The last thing I had here was, let's see, we did settings, and then in here we have the info center, the console, login. So I want to do a couple of things before I get too far away. Let me get HTOP and NeoFetch installed. Also get Oh, are you installed already? No. Maybe my mirror doesn't have it. Yeah, it has that. Okay. All right. So yes. Fine. So I won't be able to test this with Linus, is all that means. So yeah, it's probably the choice I took for the. Let me put it back on default. Oh, I changed it back. Restore the default settings. Okay. Yeah. Seen that one before. All right. So let me do this. Oops. I always like to know where the baseline is. I'm not expecting this to be any different than Ubuntu or even Debian for that matter. But we'll see. And stretch that a bit. All right, so let's see what we ended up with here. 62. Really? I just did that. Oh, probably because it changed the cache. So yeah, I need to have an APT, and for some reason the system time sync didn't successfully synchronize. So even though I think my time and date is correct, let me see. Yes, it is. So I'm not sure what the failure there is. Be a matter of going to look at the logs and finding out. But you know, that would probably ended up to be a 64, which is pretty normal. That 64, 66 in there, that's pretty normal. Let me just look at some of these there. The suggestions. That's all the same. Cups, yeah. Let's just throw that out. Yeah, encryption. So yeah, password on the bootloader, on the Grub bootloader. Yeah, I don't see anything that's really a problem here. It's just that's normal stuff. Since we have this, and I did run that, I didn't really jump it up much. 833 meg baseline, 163 threads, 97 tasks. Not particularly heavyweight. So it's not lightweight, it's not heavyweight, it's kind of in between. So not bad. Let's see if he's got his own. Yeah, he does. He's got his own. 2,281 packages. Now, if you're comparing this with Arch, it's not going to compare. So just forget about it. That I mean, based on what he has installed, yeah, I can buy that. That's fine. I mean, he's got quite a bit of stuff installed here. But the one thing I really want to do before I leave this review today is to give you a look at the documentation for this. So let's bring up the welcome screen. And let's go back to the main menu because I think I might have. Nope. It talks about all the things in it, but I think probably maybe the best way to get this would be to put this back over here. And let's go and get the actual manual. Let's see. I think where I want to go is there. And there should be a help. And then the user guide. And this is really pretty nice. I mean, you can always tell a distribution that has a certain degree of polish. I mean, some people will just throw a wiki together and be done with it, but this is a comprehensive manual. It is comprehensive because it starts you with downloading the distribution and then getting it ready, getting it on a USB or a DVD, and then whatever additional prep you need to do, and then look at how do you want to back up. Here's the transfer tool from Windows. So I was wrong. It is here. I just didn't see it. So how you can move your data off of your existing environment, which is really nice. That's unique. That is very unique. And I'm impressed. Very well done. And I don't impress very easily. So here's the information about installing it to an empty hard drive over Windows, alongside it, over a Mac, alongside it, over Linux, alongside it. So you can have this alongside other Linux distributions. Now, there's certain Linux distributions that do not like to be put next to somebody, and that's Cubes is one of those. So just be aware of that. Cubes will complain if you have another distro there, because that could potentially circumvent their security. So they will. At least they used to. I don't know. Maybe in the new ones they don't. So and then we have transitioning from Classic to Feren OS. If you're interested in finding out about what his thinking there is, you might want to pay attention to that. And there are some caveats and there's some changes that are coming to Classic eventually, I would assume, because the direction is KDE. Now I don't know if he'll eventually allow us to install other desktop environments or window managers, but right now it's KDE only. So let's see, getting started, first steps, the driver manager. It just goes through everything, and the store, the browser, app images. Here's the gaming, getting set up for that if that's of interest to you. All of the customization documentation is here. If you want to send feedback, if you want to troubleshoot a problem, there's a troubleshooting page that you can go through, and then if all else fails, go to the forums, which are right there, and if all else fails, then ask for help. So that is excellent documentation. So I want to kind of go back to the home screen for a moment. It's the website is as beautiful as the distribution. I find the distribution very agreeable, but I did find one thing kind of humorous, which is right here, where it says this OS is built on the same stable open source base and software that powers every system. Now that's true, but this distribution is built on Ubuntu, and having worked for the Department of Defense, I can assure you that a British company would not be chosen on a Department of Defense machine. Sorry, you have to be an American company for that. Now, I've been out of it for 3 years and things do change, but I rather doubt it. I rather doubt that one would change so suddenly. But you can always apply for, an exception. If there's a real business need for it. But I guarantee you the hurdles for trying to certify would be steep for you in order to be able to get there. So yeah, I highly doubt that one. The one other thing I wanted to check that I didn't, so let me do that real quick. Yeah, I know I should go in and change my settings, but all right. So the other thing I needed to look at was. So 12 gig is what it's taking on the drive. And did it set up a swap file? It did, and it made it 4 gig. So it is making the swap file the same size as memory. So yeah, what I would like to see, the only thing, and this is just a real small deal. The only thing I would like to see is on the install is give us the option to select how large we want. If we're going to use a swap file, give us the option to select how large we want it. There's very few situations where you need it to be the size of physical memory anymore. But you do need some. I mean, you got to have a place to do page swaps, and you will do page swaps. And any context switch is going to flip something out to the disk. So people who think they don't need swap files don't know how the kernel works. Anyway, enough said. Let me just get back up here. My overall impressions, excellent. I think it's a great distribution. I would use this as a daily driver, even though KDE is not my favorite desktop environment. But yeah, I could live in it, and I think it's absolutely gorgeous. I like the documentation that just shows that this distribution is going to step and beyond and above and beyond most of them. Most of them, they'll do documentation fairly well, but when you get into the mainstream ones, they all do documentation very well. But the little guys that come along, they generally don't, because they're just trying to get things to work. So good job. I think it's an excellent OS, and I would recommend it. If you're coming from a Mac environment, you're coming from a Windows environment, you can set this up to look familiar to you. And that's really the main thing, and then try to find applications that will fit what you like to use. So with that, that's all I have for today. Hope you enjoyed this today. And if you did, please like and subscribe. And as always, hope to see you again real soon. Bye for now.